Good morning and happy Friday. Hope you've had a great week. Phil and I have been busy as always. Well, not busy, productive. It's that compliance time of year, so getting through some sets of accounts and all the fun stuff that you guys just wish you got to do. But as non-accountants, you'd be so upset you don't. But one thing that keeps coming up for us is people not understanding what amount of GST they should be providing for throughout the GST period. And there's a very, very simple way to stay on top of this and fix this. And we thought we'd done enough work to teach people this and get people to break the back of getting stuck with this. But maybe you haven't found it, or you haven't heard it, or you just didn't listen when we told you. But I'm just going to walk you through an example of how you can keep an eye on your GST so that you know what you should be putting aside, so that when you come to the end of the period, you're not getting a big surprise going, oh, wow, I've got to pay $8,000 in GST. Like, how did I not know that? Because we know as much as you that tax surprises suck. So this is literally what we do and what a number of our clients that manage their cash very, very well do. And perhaps you're a non-client watching as well, then there's no reason why you can't implement this yourself and stay on top of your GST. So we'll dive into Xero. I've got the demo account loaded up there, and I'll just walk you through basically what you need to go and have a look at. So if you're using Xero, for instance, obviously you want to have all your transactions reconciled before you go and do this to get a more accurate balance, but you can still do it regardless of whether you have done your reconciling or not, but that's obviously going to make it more accurate. So that savings account there should effectively be your tax account. So if you haven't set up a tax account to start with, would suggest doing that. And there's no excuses to not do that. And humans are very, very good at looking at what money they have in the bank, $8,000 in this instance, and going, great, I've got $8,000 to spend. Not true. Some of that's tax, some of that's GST, some of that's commitments you've got coming up. So that is not a good metric to use. A lot of business owners say, oh, I just track the money I've got in the bank. That's how I know if I'm doing well or not. Incorrect. Again, we need you to level up and understand more about these numbers so that you can make better and more informed decisions, so that you don't get frights when bills for tax and GST come through. So that's the purpose of having a tax account set up. In this example, in this demo company, this would be the savings account. So if you wanted to go into your GST return, which you do at the end of the period, but we're going to change your habit and we're going to suggest that you go in there sort of weekly, 2 weekly, 3 weekly. Normally you would see a GST return if it's due, that you'd need to do it, and you'd click into that and you'd see how much GST you've got to pay. Well, there's this great little feature down the bottom here that says your next GST period ends in 3 days, 31st of May. Preview the period so far. I've literally just done this with a client, and hence why I'm making this video. So we click into this preview period so far, and it shows us exactly what our GST return is going to tell us as of this time right now. So to start with, there's 24 unreconciled statement lines. So we'd need to go and reconcile those to get a better, accurate reflection. But we know straight away, okay, we've got to have budgeted for $745. And if we haven't, then why not? So that should be sitting across in our GST account. And if it's not, we want to move it across, sit in there ahead of needing to make the payment by the 28th of June. Now, that's going to basically show us all of the things that we have coded so far. So if we were to go back to the dashboard and go, right, actually, I want to tidy up some of these other statement lines to get a better reflection of what I've got to pay there. I might go through and do some of these and go, that was the advertising that we did. Great. This was some travel, because we got a huge limo to go to Te Papa and learn more about New Zealand, because we wouldn't do anything silly in a limousine. It would be Cooper Street Bakery. Must have been feeding the team in a team meeting, get their one to entertainment, and good stuff. Jakendra Maple Systems, they did pay us. Highly appreciative that they've paid us, because we were going to ring them up and say, hey, get that in. Anyway, so you'd go through and do that, right? And each time you do that, that's obviously going to impact what your GST obligation is. So now if we click into this preview period so far, we're going to have a completely different figure. And that is only $429 of GST that we've got to pay. So it's constantly moving depending on what those transactions are. So in summary, you want to know, that you can do that. So that's accounting and GST return and preview period so far, so you can see what your obligation is. And then you want to set a calendar reminder perhaps to go and have a look at that every couple of weeks so that you start getting in the habit of it and go, right, that's right. Like I can take control of this myself. I don't need to wait for my accountant to tell me. I don't need to wait till the end of the GST period to know. And then you want to start getting in the habit of going, right, I know I've got GST coming up on the 28th of June. I should have been putting some GST money aside into my GST and tax account. Some people do this weekly, 2 weekly, 3 weekly, monthly. But, you know, that's the process to do it. And you can design your own process for how you want to go about doing it and how often you want to do it. But at least now you're armed with the education of exactly how to do it and stay on top of it. Because going back to the start, none of us like tax surprises, and they catch us off guard, and they change our energy back to being a bit more negative, and then we're thinking about that rather than thinking about how we can be growing and improving our business and doing the things that we need to be doing. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm sure it does. If not, sing out. We can give you some more guidance. Practice these two things. They'll make a big difference and make GST a lot easier for you. Cheers.